Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is take a look at what's called the Blender interface, okay? So this whole entire thing is called the interface, and it's really quite exciting because it has completely changed from the earlier versions. So I also will be getting to know it. But what you're basically seeing here are one window, this huge window in the middle, okay? And if you go up here, the top left area or corner of each window in the interface has a little drop down button. If you just hover your cursor over that, it will tell you what type of window this is. So this is your editor window. It's your 3D viewport. Do you see where it says 3D viewport on there? Okay, so remember, this is your 3D viewport. This is basically where you do all of your work. It's like your canvas, okay? And if I click on that, you'll see that there's actually a lot of different types of windows. And the interesting thing is that all of these windows are interchangeable. So I can actually go through and change it from the default 3D viewport to a UV editor, a shader editor. I can change it to a timeline, but we've already got one I'll show you. I could change it to an outliner, or properties, and properties is where you're going to find things like color and texture, okay? Those are properties and materials. I know, it'd be nice if they just called it color, but they don't. It's materials, right? So just know that if you're putting anything on your objects, you're adding materials. Just picture a little indigenous person mixing together some clay and adding some color to it and patting it onto their Adobe home. They're adding some material to the 3D outline that they've created, right? So you can go down here, and here's your next window. And if you hover your cursor over that, it says the editor type is a timeline. Well, I can't really see it very well. Now, if I click right here at the bottom, don't do it. See those double arrows? Yeah, I don't want to do that. I want the double arrows right here exactly between those two windows. So if I get those double arrows, then I can drag and pull it up, and I can see a little bit more of my timeline. Let me see what happens when I do try to grab that, and oh, nothing's actually happening. Okay, so this is the timeline. This is where you create animation, okay? And it's got like frame 1 and it ends at frame 250. So if I take this little cube that I've got in my 3D viewer right here, and you can see that I have it selected because of the fact that it's in orange, I should be able to make a keyframe. I'm going to go ahead and add it. I'm just going to click, because it looks different, and I don't know if this is right or not, but I'm going to give it a try, right? I'm going to just click that button right there, and hopefully that added a keyframe. Now, you don't know how to move these things around yet, but there are some tools over here. Scaling, okay, transforming. I'm going to click on transform, and you'll notice that I've got some different options here. It looks like I can grab this red thing and I can rotate it, and notice that you have two axes, and I know you don't know how to do this yet, but if I click on my middle mouse button, I can actually click and hold it and move my mouse around, and I can move it around, and I can see that I have 3 axes. And over here on the right, these axes are demonstrated here. So if you get mixed around and you switch things upside down on accident, you can see that the orientation might change and you could get confused. So that's the reason why they show you where you're at in space, especially if you're using a cube, because it looks the same on all sides. You might not know whether you're looking at the top or the bottom. So anyway, I can rotate it, this around what axis is that? Let's see, the green axis is the y-axis. So I grab the green one, I can rotate it around the y-axis. The x-axis is the red one. The z-axis is, whoops, I grabbed the wrong thing. Let me get that z-axis there. Now I can rotate it around the z-axis. So yeah, you guys are learning about the Cartesian coordinate system in your math class, and it's actually kind of important that you know about the x, y, and z-axis. That makes 3-dimensional space, right? On a two-dimensional plane, you only have an X and Y, but if you want to go 3D, then you have to add that Z axis in there. Okay, so now that I have that, move that around. You also have some other buttons. So this one right here says it is, trying to hover over it. Doesn't want to show me what it is, but that's move. So that means I can move it like this, okay? And I could move it along the y-axis. I could move it along the x-axis. And then these other ones are sizers, so I could just size it along the y-axis. And then on this one, I could just size it along the x. Or I could size it, or that was the y. Sorry, size it. Okay, you get the idea, all right? So you've got sizing, translating, which is sliding, and rotating, okay? And those are all called transformations, okay? So transform. In geometry, you know that you've got those different transformations. You can resize, you can make it larger or smaller, you can scale it, or you can slide it or translate it, or you can rotate it. All right, so this is where geometry is coming to life for you. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here, and I am going to set another keyframe right there with the shape right there. And let's see if it did it. I don't know if this is actually setting keyframes or not. It doesn't look like it did. Let's see. King. Insert keyframe. There we go. I inserted a keyframe there. Okay, so now I've got a keyframe. It says no active keying set. Oh, I'm probably going to have to do. Well, anyway, if I had a keyframe and I don't know what's going on, then I would just go like this, and it would actually move the object from where I started. But yeah, I'm probably going to have to delete that little bit about trying to use the timeline, because this is a new timeline and I don't know how it works. But we'll figure it out. Don't worry. If you're wanting to know, you can obviously YouTube and Google how to use the new timeline in Blender 2.81. All right. So now you know all the basics there. There are separate scale if you just want the scale by themselves, and you've got the rotate if you just want the rotate by itself, and you've got the move if you just want the move by itself. But you can also use your mouse button to move things around, and there are shortcuts. So I just wanted to let you know you can use those, but the shortcut, and if you hover your cursor over that, it says the shortcut to move something is G. So if I just hit the G button one time and then move my mouse around without clicking any of the mouse buttons, I'm just moving my mouse, it'll move it, and then if I click, it'll drop it wherever I wanted it, okay? I can also isolate the movement with the G button by hitting G and then Y, and then you'll notice I can move it just along the Y axis, okay? And click and hold it, drop it. Now I can hit G and then X, and notice it brings it along the X axis. Click to drop it. G and then Z, and notice it'll move up and down along the Z axis. So those are shortcuts for moving. If you want shortcut for rotating, it's R. And it has space bar, R. But let's see what happens. I'm going to hit R, and notice it's rotating. Now, if I hit R again, it rotates a different way. Hit R again, it goes back to that kind of limited way. Hit R again, and it goes into that really fun way, okay? And then just click to drop it wherever you want it. The shortcut to scale is S for scale. So if I hit S, and I just start moving my mouse, it'll scale the entire thing along the X, Y, and Z axes. So it's going to maintain its proportions. But let's say I just want to scale it along the X axis. Hit S and then X, and now it's going to scale only along the X axis. If I hit S and Y after, it will scale it only along the Y axis. If I hit S and then Z after, it will scale it along the Z axis. Okay, so hopefully you see how those shortcuts work. Now, let's go ahead and get rid of this cube. So it's selected because it's an orange. I'm going to hit delete and bye-bye. Okay, I want to show you really quick how to add other shapes. So right here, you'll notice at the top there's an add button. You can also hit Shift A. Shift A is a shortcut. Now we're going to be adding meshes. I know there's a lot of stuff on here, but right now we're just adding meshes. Okay, we're keeping it simple. So these are your meshes. Now plane is 2D, so we're not doing 2D, we're doing 3D. So you can do a cube, a circle is 2D, we're just doing 3D. You can do a UV sphere, an icosphere, a cylinder, a cone, a torus, which is a donut, or Suzanne the monkey, and that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to do Suzanne the monkey, and you'll notice that this little circle here, this represents the center point where whatever I insert is going to end up, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and go Shift A for add, mesh, monkey. Excellent. So now I have a monkey, and you can't see her face, and this is why I did this, is I want to show you the shortcuts. So on your number pad, hit the number 1, and that is going to show you the front view. Notice it looks two-dimensional right now. I've got orthographic mode, which is kind of just a basic 2D mode. It doesn't show any like three-dimensionality at all. Let's see, where is the other view? I have to figure that out. Orientation. Yeah, I'll figure out how to change orthographic later. I don't know where that one's at. But we know that we're in orthographic mode right now. Okay, which is why it looks so straight on, like we're just looking at the Cartesian coordinate system. This is the x-axis, this is the y-axis, okay? The z-axis still exists. There it is. There's the z-axis. All right, so I'm gonna hit 1. Oops, 1 on my number pad. Okay, now if I want to see the back of Suzanne's head, I'm gonna hit Control 1. So the 1 and the Control 1 work hand in hand, okay? They're opposites. So hit 1, Control 1, okay? And you're gonna be able to go back and forth to see the front of Suzanne and the back of Suzanne. Now, if you are looking at Suzanne right now, imagine that Suzanne is your mask over your face. So her left ear, okay? If you want to see her left ear, you're going to hit 3. There it is. Boom, 3. Okay, let's go ahead and hit Control 1 and go to the back view again, and let's look at her right ear. Control 3 gives us her right ear, okay? So notice when we're thinking about the geometry of a person, we're putting ourselves inside of their head so that we can talk about left and right orientation, okay? So 3 gives us the left ear, Control 3 gives us the right ear. If you want to look at the top of Suzanne's head, you're going to hit 7. 7 gives you the top of Suzanne's head. If you want to see the chin, you're going to hit Control 7. That shows us the bottom, okay? So do you remember? 1 is face, Control 1 is back of the head, 3 is left ear, Control 3 is right ear, 7 top of the head, Control 7 chin. Okay, and go back to 1. Now that you're here, you've got those shortcuts. I'm also going to show you how to rotate using your number pad. So you've got a 4 and a 6 and an 8 and a 2 on your number pad. So hit the 4. Look what happens. Hit the 6. Look what happens. They're right across from each other. Hit the 8. Look at that. Hit the 2. Look at that. Okay. If you want to get back and see where you're at, just hit 1 and that'll bring you right back. So you can hit the 2 and see exactly what's happening, and hit the 8 and see exactly what's happening there. Okay. All right. Perfect. So I'm going to scroll. Now, if you scroll, it's going to zoom you out, or if you scroll, it's going to zoom you in. Okay, and then remember, you can press that middle mouse button and you can move around in space like this. And you'll notice that I have over here a light. Okay, and you can add lights. Let's see, add light. And there's different types of lighting. There's point lighting, there's sun lighting, there's spot lighting, there's area lighting. So just like if you were a camera person, you know, the key, what do they call it? The key grip person that works on a movie set. You've got all these different types of lighting that you can use, that you can add. So I can add another light, and it added it right to the center. And notice that it gave me the translate tool, so I can go ahead and move it around. Okay, so I can add more lights. I can add different kinds of lights. Okay, so let's see. I can add a point like a sun kind of light. So there's all these different types of lighting, and you'll be able to play around and see what they do later. Then the other thing I have in my space is my camera, okay? So at this point in time, I'm not exactly sure how the camera in this works, but you can also hit your G and move your camera around using your G, and then you can also hit the R and rotate your camera, but you might have to hit the R a second time, because remember, the first time you hit it, it moves that way, and then the second time you hit it, it moves that way. I'm going to teach you a little trick though, how to use your camera better later on. But just want you to know that all of this stuff is here. So if you want to Google how to use stuff, feel free, since the interface is all new for me and I'm not exactly sure. I haven't mastered how to use everything. I'm learning it with you as I go now. So this other window over here is, if you hover your cursor over here, this is the outliner, okay? So you'll notice that it is outlining and showing everything that I've got in my scene. I've got Suzanne, I've got a sun lamp, I've got a point lamp, and I've got my original light source. And there's a camera, okay? Well, what happens, take a look at that camera. What happens if I click on the eye? It hides it. Hides it, hides it, hides it. I can hide Suzanne. Okay, so if you are trying to take a screenshot and you're like, I don't want all these lights and everything in my screenshot, you can just hide them. Okay, all right. And let's see, this bottom window here on the right is called properties, okay? And this is where we're going to get into things like, ding, ding, ding. I'm guessing the object properties are going to have color, but honestly, this is all a little bit different, but we're gonna find out. There might be a different way to add color that I'm not familiar with. Yeah, there's the camera. So when it's time to record your scene, I'm guessing this camera is where we're going to go. What is this? This is like tool space, workplace settings. So yeah, you can play around with some of this stuff. You know, I'm gonna figure out what it all means. We'll figure it out together. It's all a little bit looking odd. Didn't used to look quite like this before. So we'll figure it out, don't worry. But for the sake of just understanding the interface, you understand that you have them and that you can grab these arrows and that you can move them around. Now you can also, what does this say? You can also, oh, if you see that little arrow, oh look, I've got some settings over here. So that was cool. I can tuck that away. Do you see that little arrow? Whenever you have an arrow, that means that you've got some settings that you can pull out. So let's select Suzanne. I'm going to hit 1 and zoom in a little bit so that I can see where she's at. And right now you can see that her basic location is at 0, 0, 0 on the XYZ coordinate plane, right? And at rotation, she's not rotated at all. But let's say that I wanted to rotate her around the y-axis 90 degrees. I could just type in 90 and then boom. Cool, huh? And you can use Ctrl Z in this program to undo. Ctrl Z. Let's say I wanted to do around the z-axis 30 degrees. There, just rotated her 30 degrees around the z-axis. So you can actually type in numbers. If I want to move 1 unit up or to the right on the x-axis, I could. I could even go -1 and move 1 over from the origin on the x-axis. So I could go up 5, or wait, I think that was y, which means if that was y, yep, there we go. I just Yeah, that's tough because we're used to the X and the Y being like that, okay? But now we're 3D. And then if I move Z, I can go up 3, or I could move Z down -5. So this is just like what you do in your math class when you are putting points on your Cartesian coordinate system, but now you have 3D. So you can enter things manually. Oh, I wanted to show you, sorry. If you wanted to get rid of the top or the bottom, like if you wanted to mess around with these, or you might accidentally do it on accident sometime, if you grab here, yeah, that didn't work. Where is it oh, there it is. Do you see that little plus sign that I did? I'm going off of it now. In the corner, if you get that little bullseye, if I click and drag up, you'll notice there's an arrow. That's going to replace the other dock or the other window, but I'm going to go ahead and pull it back down, and then I'm going to change that back to outliner because I know that's my normal outliner. So you might accidentally have a situation where you take this guy, whoops, and make another one. Oh, I didn't want that. Just go ahead and click the corner of that and move it back up. Or if you wanted to move that one down, oh boy, look at, so it's really easy to accidentally create more windows or accidentally, let's see, oh, what if oh, look at that. So yeah, when you do that, just click and drag it back down. So you might want to play around with that a little bit. Okay, we'll figure out how to set your defaults. Just don't mess them up, okay? All right, thanks.